It's now our privilege to pay honor and tribute to the memory of our fellow firefighters who were lost on 9/11 by presenting an award that memorializes the name and legacy of FDNY Deputy Chief Ray Downey, one of the greatest fire service leaders of our time. Joining us on stage are Chief Ron Canterman of the National Fire Academy Alumni Association and Chief Ron Sarnicki, the Executive Director of the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Also, as you can see, joining us on stage today are several members of the Fire Department of New York's Rescue 1, along with several members of the FDNY Pipes and Drums. A big hand from them, if you would, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you now to help me to welcome and to say thank you with our deepest gratitude to our chairman of the board of the Penwell Corporation, parent company of FDIC, and a dearly loved friend of the fire service and the man who makes this award possible. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert F. Biachini. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please now observe the monitors.
Penwell established the Fire Engineering Courage and Valor Foundation in 2002 to honor the spirit of the heroic 343 FDNY firefighters that perished on 9/11. Preserving the memory of the firefighters who made the ultimate sacrifice on September 11th and honoring firefighters for years to come, Penwell has set up an independent, tax-free foundation with a goal of raising $1 million. Through generous donations, each year the income from the foundation is awarded to a firefighter or his or her family who has exhibited exemplary courage and valor in a rescue operation during the prior year. The first award was presented in 2002 to the widow and family of Deputy Chief Ray Downey, who lost his life while commanding rescue operations at the World Trade Center attack on 9/11. Deputy Chief Downey was Chief of Rescue Operations and a 39-year veteran of the Fire Department of New York. He was the most highly decorated firefighter in the history of the FDNY. In addition to his great courage as a firefighter, Deputy Chief Downey was nationally known for his pioneering efforts in the field of technical rescue and was the unofficial leader of FEMA's urban search and rescue teams, which he trained for disaster response throughout the United States and the world. Deputy Chief Downey commanded rescue operations at many difficult and complex disasters, including the Oklahoma City bombing, the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and many natural disasters worldwide. For a lifetime of unparalleled service to firefighters and citizens alike, and in remembrance of the courage and valor exemplified throughout his life, the Courage and Valor Award, presented to one extraordinarily courageous American firefighter each year, now bears the Downey name.
Ladies and gentlemen, now please welcome FDNY Battalion Chiefs Chuck and Joe Downey, Ray's sons, for the presentation of the 2017 award. Good, boys.
Thank you, Mr. B. On behalf of the Downey family, thank you for continuing to memorialize the legacy of our father with this most tremendously important award. This year marks the 16th anniversary of that tragic day on 9/11, when we lost our dad along with 342 of our brother FDNY firefighters. In their memories, this morning, we recognize the actions of firefighter Jim Lee of Rescue Company 1, whose actions exemplify the very best in firefighters. But before we hear Jimmy's story, we want to express our family's gratitude to Courage and Valor Foundation. We'd also like to thank the Penwell Fire Group advisors and staffers for their hard work in supporting the Courage and Valor Foundation.
Today's awardee is special for us in many ways. Jimmy is a member of our FDNY family. Jimmy is a member of Rescue One. With us today on stage are several members of Rescue One, many of whom were with Jimmy that night. Jimmy is also a member of the FDNY Pipes and Drums, and it is great to see several members of the band here today. Sorry for messing that up, guys. This award would brighten our dad's face, for it simultaneously recognizes the courage and valor of an individual and the courage and valor of our beloved department. Today we celebrate the success of training, courage, teamwork, and the importance of everyone performing their function on the fire ground, supporting the mission of the team to the very best of their abilities. Ladies and gentlemen, please observe the monitors.
On October 27, 2016, at 03:26 hours, a fire was reported on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. The fire building was a 5-story building of ordinary construction, with 2 apartments per floor that ran front to rear. It had 4 windows in the front of the building. There was a front fire escape, but no rear fire escape, which meant civilians trapped in the rear had no escape, except for firefighters. There was heavy fire in the enclosed light and air shaft between the fire building and the exposure 4 side. Fire was also burning in the cellar and in every apartment from floors 1 through 5 on the exposure 4 side of the fire building. Inside the building, fire had extended out of an open door on the first floor and had control of the lobby and the wooden stairs on every floor all the way up and out of the bulkhead on the roof. There was an inordinate amount of fire in this 100-year-old building. The fire had control of the lobby, the wooden staircase, and the apartment on the exposure 4 side. An engine company knocked down the fire in the lobby and on the staircase leading to the 2nd floor, and was proceeding to extinguish the fire in the 1st floor lobby. The interior wooden stairs were damaged by fire, and another engine company and its members would have to advance the hose line up them to extinguish the fire on the 2nd floor. This would have to happen on every floor of the building, which would take considerable resources and coordination. This fire would be personnel intensive. Firefighter James Lee was assigned the roof position in Rescue 1 for the night tour. He made his way up to the roof using Exposure 2's interior stairway. Once on the roof, he observed that the fire was blowing out of the enclosed light and air shaft at least 30 feet in the air, and that the roof and bulkhead of Exposure 4 were on fire. The rear of the building had a 4-foot iron fence that was 8 inches from the back edge of the roof. Noticing that there were no fire escapes, Lee leaned over the fence and shined his light on every window on the top 3 floors. There were no victims visible at this time. Lee began to assist the members who were already operating on the roof. Conditions on the roof, as well as at the rear of the building, were rapidly deteriorating when Lee heard someone give a report of a victim at a top-floor rear window. Firefighter Frank Rush, Rescue 1's chauffeur, who was conducting searches in the 1st floor fire apartment, also heard that transmission and made his way to the rear yard through a back door from the apartment. Once in the rear, Rush spotted the victim and called Lee on the portable radio to tell him that the victim was on the top floor, 2 windows off of the Exposure 4 side. Rush then established contact with the victim, 81-year-old Jim Duffy, and told him to stay in the window. Because of the heavy smoke and heat pushing straight up and over the rear of the building, Lee quickly moved toward the Exposure 2 side of the building to get an angled view, which allowed him to get a visual look at it, as well as establish contact with the victim. The window of the apartment that the victim was in had now failed, and heavy smoke and heat were venting out over the victim's head. Lee told the victim that help was on its way. Lee contacted the incident commander to let him know that there was a victim hanging out of the top floor in the rear, and that he was setting up the life-saving rope, LSR. Meanwhile, inside the fire building, because of the heavy amount of fire, the interior hose line had still not made its way past the 2nd floor, and all attempts to reach the victim through the interior of the fire building were blocked by heavy fire. Heavy smoke and heat were now pushing even harder up and over the rear of the building. Lee moved to a position on the roof that was in line with and over the victim. He could hear the victim, but could not see him. Lee dumped the LSR out of its bag and onto the roof, and handed the hook off to Ladder 43 chauffeur firefighter Andy Hawkins. He tied off the LSR to a short 3x3 chimney that was approximately 10 feet from the edge of the roof and centered in the building. To avoid running the rope over the top of the iron fence, which would have damaged the rope or compromised the anchor system, he passed the LSR hook under the 4-foot wrought iron fence, fed it back over the fence, and then attached it to his personal harness. Once Hawkins was anchored to the chimney and had taken his 4 wraps around the rappel hook, Lee climbed over the 4-foot iron fence and stood on the narrow 8 inches of roof between the fence and the rear edge of the building. Lee could hear Duffy yelling for help and saying that he was burning, while reassuring Duffy and being guided by his voice. Lee positioned the anti-chafing device on the edge of the building. Without hesitation and at extreme personal risk, Lee dismounted into the high heat and black smoke that was now pushing violently from the top floor windows. Once over the edge and on rope, Lee was blasted with high heat. Visibility was 0. While being exposed to this extreme heat, he remained focused and continued to communicate and calm Duffy. Rush directed Lee over to the window with the victim. Once Lee became level with the window, Rush radioed Hawkins to stop lowering. Duffy was crouched down below the windowsill, with fire now lapping out over his head, which kept him from standing up and coming to the window. Lee reached into the window and could get one arm around Duffy's back and one arm under his knees. Duffy was unable to hold on to Lee because of the cuts and burns on his hands and arms, so it was all up to Lee. With all of his strength, Lee grabbed Duffy and pulled him out of the window. When he did this, the force from the removal caused the rope to rotate 180 degrees, so that Lee's back was now to the building. Rush gave the order to lower. Lee, while being lowered with his back to the building and the victim in his arms, was unable to use his hands to rotate himself back to face the building. To avoid being hung up on parts of the building while being lowered, he had to continually kick off from the building with his legs while cradling the weight of a grown man in his arms. Members on the roof observed that the LSR was beginning to burn as they approached the 3rd floor. By the time Lee and Duffy reached the ground, the window from which Duffy was rescued was fully involved in fire. Shortly after, the LSR burned through completely and fell to the ground. Lee and Rush then carried Duffy through Exposure 4 to the front of the fire building, where Duffy was handed off to emergency medical services. A rescue of this magnitude, completed under arduous conditions, is a testament to the training and knowledge of all those involved. The victim was seconds away from jumping out of the 5th-story window, which most likely would have led to his death. This rescue shows the importance of communication, teamwork, and most importantly, training. If a low-frequency, high-risk maneuver becomes necessary, you had better have trained on it and be comfortable using it. There is a man alive today because of the determination and dedication to duty of all members involved in this operation.
Firefighter Jimmy Lee exemplifies the highest traditions of the fire service. For his extraordinary courage and valor, Penwell Fire Engineering are honored to have our chairman of the board, Mr. Robert F. Biachini, present Firefighter Jimmy Lee with the 2017 Ray Downey Courage and Valor Award, along with a check for $35,000 from the Fire Engineering Courage and Valor Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives us great pleasure to introduce to you the 2017 Ray Downey Courage and Valor Award recipient, Firefighter Jimmy Lee.
Great stuff this year, man.
How about the FDNY Pipe Band? I'm in awe to be the recipient of this award, named after legendary FDNY Deputy Chief Ray Downey. While I'm the one accepting this award, it truly was a collaborative effort and a once-in-a-career evolution. Thank you, Mr. B, Bobby Halton, and the entire staff of FDIC who made this possible. I'd also like to thank Battalion Chiefs Joe and Chuck Downey. I really wish I had the privilege to know your dad. Andrew Carnegie said, "Teamwork is the ability to work together toward a common vision, the ability to direct individual accomplishments towards organizational objectives. It is the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results." This quote embodies our life-saving rescue on October 27th, 2016. I happened to be the one lowered to grab Jim Duffy, but a team effort saved his life. Andy Hawkins of Ladder 43, who was with us today, was the member who lowered me, and Frank Rush of Rescue 1, who guided me. I'd also like to mention Joe Moore of Ladder 13, Steve Janicki of Ladder 43, Will McGarry, Walt Gilroy, and Pete McMahon, all of Ladder 26. Perhaps the greatest part of this rescue was the friendship I've created with Mr. Duffy. He came so close to death, yet you'd never know what he's been through. He has such a strong sense of resilience, and he has shown me how to live every day to the fullest. I love my job, and I'm a proud member of Rescue 1 and the FDNY Pipe Band. My successes in the department are in large part due to the senior men and officers of Engine 45, Ladder 147, and Rescue 1, all the companies that I've worked in. They have mentored me and shared their skills and experiences on this job. Thank you to my captain, Rex Morris, who not only nominated me for this award, but he also gave me the opportunity to work in Rescue 1. Thanks for your continued support, Cap. I've never wanted to be anything but a fireman. It's ironic that on this exact day, 50 years ago, my father joined the fire service. As a child, I wanted nothing more than to be like my dad, and I'm proud to have followed in his footsteps. I'm thrilled that he's here to see me receive this award. So, Dad, thank you. Oh, here he comes. I'd also like to thank my wife, Erin, who was also here, for all her support over the years. I'm pretty sure being married to a fireman isn't an easy thing, but she always handles it with grace. There's a famous quote from over 100 years ago that is still relevant today. FDNY Chief of Department Edward F. Croker said, "We who know the work which a fireman has to do believe his is a noble calling. Our proudest moment is to save lives. Under the impulse of such thoughts, the occupation thrills us and stimulates us to deeds of daring, even of supreme sacrifice." I would like to dedicate this award to FDNY fireman Bill Tolley, who made the ultimate sacrifice on April 20th, 2017. Thank you very much.